Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another time here at the book club. Thanks for making it. Thanks for making a time here with me. I get to do this Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. West African time. And we're presently reading through uh eighth book in the series, I believe. Eighth book in the series, and it's The Gold Mine Effect. The Gold Mine Effect by Rasmus Ankersen. That's what we're on. We finished chapter 5 last week, Sunday, and today we're going to go on to chapter 6. And chapter 6 is pretty much just looking at the gurus in each of the gold mine centers that Rasmus studied. You know, the gurus there, the leaders there, the coaches there, the people that made a difference in those places where high performance was exemplified, and to find out what was their philosophy. What was it that made them think? How did they handle those places that made it turn out the way that it turned out? You know, that's what chapter 6 is. So it's pretty much looking at leadership, the specific leadership that gives rise to high performance. You know, that's what we can take away from it, the leadership philosophy, the leadership style that we can use to get high performance in our own establishments, in our own personal life, and in the life of those that are our word, our mentees, you know, the people that work under us, you know, people that we're as it were mentoring, you know, training, you know, the next level, the next generation after us, you know. So that's what we're going to be learning. We're going to be learning from what these people did that differentiated them, marked them out, and see how we can replicate that in our own personal life. You know, so that's what chapter 6 is all about, and that's what we're going to be looking at as we spend this time together. So as usual, I'm going to bring up my slide here, and we're going to have a systematic take on this. All right, so I guess you can see my slide, you know, the gold mine effect. You know, we're looking at crack the secrets of high performance, and we're looking at chapter 6, looking at the Godfathers, you know, the gurus, the coaches, you know, the leaders whose mindset, the pointing of their mind, the philosophies that the thought pattern, the attitude, you know, that they exemplified, you know, how that have affected the high performance in those gold mine and what we can learn from them, you know, for our own personal dealing. That's what we're going to be looking at. So the quote that pretty much runs through the chapter here is one by Paul Evans, a professor of organizational behavior, right? It says effectiveness, right? Effectiveness, you know, getting the right result with what you have or what you are using, you know, being able to maximize, to optimize that which you have to get the result that you are desiring is inherently paradoxical. You know, it's paradoxical because the things that are involved in getting effectiveness, it seemingly look as if they are opposite to one another, right? You know, so it says to be effective, a leader must possess attributes that are contrary, even mutually exclusive to one another. You know, it's just saying it's strategic. That's all. You know, that's why, and not just every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets it. Not just any Bingpe, Alaba, and Yabo gets it, because you have to put some thinking to it. You know, it's getting the right ingredient, the right amount of each. And some of them might be contrary to one another, but the way you just oppose them is what is important. If you just add them anyhow, they won't work. But you just oppose them in a way that they complement one another. Is what the Japanese call the yin and the yang of life. The yin and the yang of life is two seemingly opposing principles, you know, that enforce and enable one another. They are seemingly opposing, but when put in the right place, in the right amount, you know, in the right setting, they complement one another, they empower one another, they enable one another. right? And that's what effectiveness is, and that's what as proposed by Paul Evans, the professor, and it's true in life, right? And that's why the Japanese, give it a special name. They call it the yin and the yang of life. The yin and the yang of life, right? It's not the yin or the yang. It's the yin and the yang of life. Jim C. Collins, in his book, and he wrote two big books, of which other ones were built off it. Built to stand, built to last, and good to great. He came up with that principle, of what we call the genius of the and the tyranny of the all. The immature people are always running after the all. Is that this or that? This or that. Yesterday I was discussing on my one of my channels, and someone was just all held up. Oh, it's not what I do or don't do. Oh, it is God's sovereignty and all of that. You know, those are sentiments, right? You know, whatever law is, and we are the ones who dance to the law, not try to justify our shortcoming. you know, the law is the law. We either agree with the law and win or disagree with the law and lose, right? Our life does not describe nature. Nature describes our life. The law of nature describes our life and sets our life aright. Our life does not set the law of nature. The law of nature is older than us. We are the ones to agree with God, not God dancing to our tune. That's why the Bible says in Galatians 6, verse 7 and 8, he says that God is not mocked. God's already set everything in order. God is not mocked. God is not mocked. You can't deceive God. You can't trick God. He has already set things in order. You either agree with his order and win, or disagree with it and lose. It's yours. You are the decision maker. No, that's why it goes on and says that exaltation does not come from the east, not from the west. Exaltation comes from God. Because when God comes, he judges you. Are you in line with my order? If you are in line with my order, it will promote you. If you are not in line with this order, it will demote you. It doesn't keep you the same. He's either going to promote you or demote you, based on his judgment of where you are, how you are carrying your life, what you are doing or not doing, right? It doesn't just judge because of how he feels, or he judges different way, different days. He judges about based on your doing. It's the work of your hand that God looks at. The work of your hand is what determines your judgment. Are you dancing in line with this law or dancing against this law? That determines whether you're going to be promoted or demoted, whether you're going to be exalted or not exalted. And that's pretty much the spirit, the mindset, that runs through this chapter. The fact that, for you to be effective, you have to be careful, to make sure you are using the right amount of the right things at the right time, in the right way, to the right person. Right? It's not a slam dunk, because we're all different. What works for child A will not necessarily work for child B, will not necessarily work for child C. I have three children, they're all different. I can't handle the child two the way I handle child one. I can't handle child three the way I handle child two. They're all different and unique. Right? There's some things that cut across, but the way I interpret those cut across for each individual is according to who they are. Otherwise, I lose them. Right? So leadership is not a mindless game. It's a game in which your mind has to be there, because you have to consider what you are working on. You're not going to just use rule of thumb. Rule of thumb, it worked here, it's going to work there. You won't be effective. You'll miss it. Right? Because even though the laws are the same, you have to interpret it to meet the circumstance we are working with, right? The specific nature of your reality. You have to apply it. You have to apply it for the road that you are hitting, right? Because when it comes to you applying a specific law principle to a person, that's when the rubber hits the road. You have to get the feedback, right? when you apply it to person A, the feedback is different from when you apply it to person B. And you have to respond based on the feedback you get. You cannot be blind to the feedback. Otherwise, you will not be effective. Otherwise, you will not get the high performance you're looking for. Right? All right, let's go on. So just building a bit more on the fact that effectiveness is paradoxical, and also with someone then applying it is the word leadership, right? It's paradoxical. A great leader, knowing this, a great leader must be able to build close relationship with the people he or she is working with, but be able to keep at a suitable distance. You don't get so close that you lose your position. You start becoming that you bring about contempt based on your familiarity. You don't stay too far such that they cannot relate with you. It's the effectiveness of applying being close but yet far, being far but near, being near but far, being far but near. You have to know when to come close. You have to know when to stay far. You don't want to ever be too close that the contempt begins to arise. They don't respect your position. They don't respect your word. They begin to take you for granted, right? You will lose your place. You will not be effective. At the same time, you don't want to be too far that they see you unapproachable, that they cannot come to you with their little issues. Like Colin Powell once said, if the troops are not coming to you, then you lost your leadership position, right? If leadership is a gift, the follower gives to the leader, by following the leader, right? They could choose not to follow the leader. If they choose not to follow the leader stops being a leader, right? Leadership is not imposed, right? Leadership is attracted because the people see in you someone that they want to lead them or someone they want to follow, right? So you want to be close enough for them to see that, but far enough for them not to be contempt in your relationship. There's no way they are taking you for granted. They are abusing the privilege, right? So that's important, if you're going to be effective as a leader, in any place you find yourself, as a supervisor, as a coach, as a manager, as a CEO, it's getting that healthy balance, that's important, right? Some people want to do I'm going to be a leader that's staying close. Oh, I'm going to be a leader that's far. You will not be effective. You only go so far, but you will not stand out. For you to stand out, you have to know how to use the tool in a skillful way. Be skillful about it. Be skillful about noting what is important to the people that follow you, while not being lost in the crowd, that you can't differentiate yourself, right? Number two is you lead from the front, yet hold yourself in the background, right? You're leading from the front, you are showing the example, but yet you are knowing what is going on in their midst, right? In their midst, but that's not exactly what he's saying. You lead visibly, right? But you are not always, as it were, giving instruction as to what to do, right? You also trust your people to be able to take their own initiative. If you are always telling people what to do, they will always be followers. You have to trust your people to use their own initiative. Yes, you lead in front, they are following you, but you also have to allow them use their own initiative. If they don't use their initiative, they will never rise. They will always be lost in the crowd. They will not perform at the top level. Yes, you give direction. You need to know when to give direction. You need to know when to step back and allow them use their initiative. You need to give them direction, guidelines, boundary conditions. and allow them use their initiative within those boundary conditions. If you want to get your people to perform at the top level, right? That's what I do for my firm. Every weekend I give a general direction, as it were, and allow them to use their initiative to make things work. I don't go micromanaging this. They're human beings. Some of them know farming more better than I do, right? I understand systems better than they do. So I put the systems in place, but I have to let them use their initiative to make things work. I don't want to be a clog in the wheel, right? I need them to be human also on the job, right? I so that's what you need to do if you want to have effectiveness, effectiveness in the workplace, or effectiveness in anything that you're doing or you're leading, right? It's knowing when to give instruction and also when to allow them use their initiative. Is providing the guidelines or the boundary conditions so that they don't make decisions that could be irreversible and destructive. Selling to them the general philosophy of what you are trying to do, so they know within the parameters with which they are using their initiative, right? That's important. Number 3 here is also you have to be in control at all times, but trust your people to be willing to relinquish some of, you have to, it's being in control at all times, but also trusting your people to relinquish some control to them. That's similar to number 2. It's being on top of business, right? Knowing in a summary, general view, what is going on, you know, but align your people, giving them the freedom to operate also. In a way, you could look at this from being strategic and being tactical. The people that work under you are doing the tactical thing, the everyday little things, but you are in control of the strategy. This is where we're going. This is where we're going. But you allow them to give them some level of control to do the little things that will get us there, right? Where they are lost and they have questions, they come to you. But you don't want to be involved in every tiny little detail. You're going to be tired. You yourself can't do that, right? You want to free up time for you to be able to not be lost in the frame. As a leader, you cannot afford to be lost in the frame. You must always come out of the frame and be able to see the whole picture. Because when you're in the frame, you can't see the whole picture. You are part of that picture. You can't see the whole picture. You need to come out of the frame if you want to see the whole picture, and therefore be able to be able to tie things together, not be tied together, right? It's very important as a leader that you are not lost in the frame. That means you have to always be strategic. But in being strategic, you are available to help with even the tactical things when they have question or way you see that they are missing out in one thing or the other. This was one small mistake I made when I built my first house. I was too much involved in the building, too much, right? I was a financier, which I should be. I designed the house, which, yeah, because I couldn't get a good architect to do it, right? But I was also there on site, in the mud with them. I needed to have released some of those out. I'm not a machine. I was too lost in the tactical, that when things were not going well, I couldn't see it. I was lost. I was in the frame. I couldn't see the whole picture. And it did not end the way I wanted it, right? So I learned from that, right? It's important to be strategic, but don't be lost in your being strategic also. Be involved to some extent, knowing what is going on tactically to be sure that it is matching with the strategy, right? Yes, you're in charge of the war as a leader, right? Your people are in charge of the battles that will result in winning the war. The war is the strategy. The battle is the tactical, or the battles are the tactical, right? You're helping your people with the battles without losing sight of the reason for the battles. We'll fight the battles to win the war. We don't fight the battles for the sake of the battles. We fight the battles to win the war. We don't do the tactical for the sake of the tactical. We do the tactical for the sake of the strategic. It's just like that cleaner that was spoken to at NASA, just before they landed on the moon, and they asked her, "What is your job?" She knew she was well trained. Her job really was cleaning, but she was not lost in the cleaning. Her cleaning was for the purpose of getting someone to the moon. Getting to the moon is a strategy. Her cleaning is a tactical. She has to clean to make that place comfortable for the people that have to work to get the plan to get to the moon. She was not part of the plan to get to the moon, but she was part, but her cleaning contributed to the whole process of getting to the moon. Our own tactical part was cleaning. The people that sit down there and do all the planning, all the building, their own tactical part is that. But all of that joins together to achieve the strategy, get someone to the moon. They're not divided. They're all working for a common purpose. When the engineers belittle the sweeper, they lost it. They lose their effectiveness because they need the cleaners just as much as the cleaners need them to achieve the strategy, the big picture, right? That's important. That's how you get effectiveness in your workplace. That's how you get high performance. It's understanding how each part links together, right? It's like scriptures would say, the body grows by that which each joint contributes. Each joint contributes. Each joint is the strategy, is the tactical. And as each joint contributes, the body is growing, the strategy, right? So the fourth part here is also to be dictionary, but keep your feet on the ground, which is similar to all what we just said right now, because the vision is a strategy. Be visionary, know where we're going. Don't be lost in what is going on today. All the activities, all the running around here is to achieve the vision. Vision is where we want to be on the moon. But we can't just be on the moon. We have to do this little piece here, little piece here, little piece here, little piece here, little piece here to get the rocket that will fly to the moon. Be on the moon is our vision. But to get to the moon, we have to do this little part to get there. You must not lose sight of why we do all the little things that we do. At the same time, you have to make sure that the little things are done rightly. Otherwise, the vision will not be achieved, right? And that's part of some of the errors, incidents that occurred, even with NASA trying to get to the moon. In the little things, they compromised. And we had some blow-ups. They were probably too focused on the vision, get to the moon, we're behind time, get to the moon, we're behind time, and lost sight of the little things that contribute to that. And they took for granted some little parts. They compromised in. And that rocket blew up, right? So leadership for effectiveness is you not losing sight of the vision. At the same time, you gotta be on ground, knowing what is going on in the tactical, right? It's a combination of the two. It's not vision or tactical. It's vision and tactical, being on the ground. It's not strategy or tactical. It's strategy and tactical. It's not being in the frame or out of the frame. It is being out of the frame and in the frame at the same time. Just having a healthy mix of all of this is what gives you effectiveness in the workplace. And lastly, it's create consensus, but be willing to make decisions against the majority, right? You create consensus, you allow the people to make their decisions. You make them a part of the decision process, right? You're not lording it over, like, don't just make decisions, just throw it over the fence. You build a family unit with the people they are working with. Make them have a sense of belonging. Make them have a sense of ownership, in what is being done. But if at any point in time you see them derailing, you are never shy to put your foot down to make sure that we don't miss the target, the vision, the reason why we congregate. So you are giving them liberty, but you are setting boundaries, right? That's important. All right, let's move on here. So talking here now generally about leadership, we look at some paradoxical thing we need to combine rightly for effectiveness. In general here, still learning from the Godfathers, right? These are pretty much the people who ran these gold mines here, who ran these gold mines at these places. I'm wondering whether I should write them as the Godfathers or the Godfathers. That's a title anyway. So we're looking at them and looking at what they did. We look generally at the way they do it, which we've talked about the fact that to be effective, you have to combine those things that are seemingly paradoxical, but they make a difference, right? Leadership as a whole is situational. And when I look at the word leadership is situational, that reminds me of Rabbi Daniel Lapin in his book. He tells us that in the Jewish alphabet, that leadership, there's no word for leadership as ascribing to a person who is a leader in all circumstance. But a leader, but the word or the Hebrew alphabet for leader or vocabulary or vocab for leadership assumes that a leader arises according to the situation or circumstance at hand. Anybody that rises to solve the problem, to address the challenge at hand, that person is a leader. You're not a leader just because you are somewhere sitting down. You're a leader because of what you're doing, addressing an issue, doing something. Leadership, therefore, in the Hebrew vocabulary, it's a verb. It's a doing thing, right? It's not a position. It's not a noun. And we'll talk about that generally. When we talk about leadership, even in the position, leadership is not a name. Leadership is a person, and is defined by what that person does, not just who that person is, as it were, but what that person does, right? It's a being thing. Well, that's a being thing. It's a doing thing, not a being thing. However, we all know that there's no doing without a being, right? But we're saying that a leader is a leader when he shows up, not a leader that we just assume has innate qualities, but is not showing up. You have to show up to be a leader or to be seen as a leader, right? When there's a problem and nobody's addressing it, there's no leader in that circumstance. A leader is one that rises to the occasion of life, right? I know people love names. They want to call, I'm leader, I'm the most right apostle, yet has no clue on how to address the challenges before him. But he loves the name. He loves the name, but doesn't want to do the work, right? So no leadership style is universal, right? One leadership style can work in this circumstance, but not necessarily work in that circumstance. So leadership again is situational. A leader would not copy what worked for him in this circumstance to that circumstance. A leader thinks, a leader, gets feedback. A leader goes to every new circumstance, to address what he or she meets on ground. You might have your experience, how it's worked for you all this while, but if you just dub it in this new circumstance, you're not a leader. You can be any other thing, but you're not a leader. because a leader relates to the problem, relates with the challenge at hand, right? So if you're not relating to the challenge at hand, you're not a leader, right? You need to relate to the challenge at hand because you're trying to address a problem. You're trying to solve an issue on ground, right? So no leadership style is universal, right? Every leadership style is addressed or attuned to the circumstance, the environment, the situation, the challenge at hand, right? No leadership style works in all situations, right? What works in this situation might not necessarily work in that situation. You have to develop one that works for the challenge you await, right? The truths are the same. Now, the truths are the same. Truths are transferable, but their interpretation might not be the same, right? The way you interpret the truth in one situation, circumstance, as against the way you do it in another might be different. Doesn't change the truth. Truths are the same, but you need to be mindful of the circumstance, the place where you are, and interpret it to suit the reality of those people without losing the value of the truth itself. Right? We're not saying you dilute the truth, but you make it applicable in the circumstance before you, right? The way you do a thing where you go to cattle rearers might be different from the way you say it when you're dealing with crop people. Might be different from the way you are talking to fishermen. Might be different from the way you're talking to people that work in the office. Might be different from the way you're going to address it when you're talking to market women. The truth is the same, but the way you interpret it for them to understand and be able to apply it in the specific of their circumstance is what is different. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking for is effectiveness. You're trying to move the dial. You're trying to move the dial. Religious people don't know this. Religious people just think that the way it was interpreted here must be the way it was interpreted here. Religious people don't think because they're not doing things from their heart. They are doing it because they feel obliged to do it, right? They feel that if they don't do it, it will be a sin. Then they are not married the assignment. They are doing it as a slave to a master job. They are not taking ownership of the assignment. In Yoruba will say that if they send you the job of a slave, go deliver it like a son. Own it. Own it. Don't be stupid. Own it. They send you the job of a slave. Own the job and deliver it as if you were a son. Right? So great leaders are flexible. That's what makes them great leaders. Right? Great leaders are flexible. They're sensitive to people's emotion. They're sensitive to the humanity they're dealing with. They're sensitive to the circumstance they meet. They're sensitive to the environment they meet. They're sensitive to the culture they meet. They are sensitive to the tradition they meet. Right? That's what makes them effective. Right? So bad leaders are static. They're religious people. They're people who don't bring their mind to the work. You just do their head. They're dogma people, right? They're doing it because they said we should do it, right? Like some people that go to preach, they're preaching just because their pastor said they must preach. They have zero love for the people they are preaching to. They're just doing it because the pastor said it'll be a sin if they don't do it, or they'll go to hell. So they're not doing it because they love the people they are preaching to. They are doing it because they are trying to run away from hell, right? They feel like God will punish them if they don't do it. Those are slaves. They live in jobs as like slaves. They aren't going to be effective that way, right? You got to marry the job. You got to love it and deliver it with love, right? That's how you become effective, right? So great leaders are flexible. They know how to adjust what they are delivering without diluting the power and the meaning and the essence of the message. But they are putting themselves in the shoes of the people they are delivering it to, and they are asking themselves, how can this be effectively delivered to me? Knowing the reality of my IQ, the reality of my consciousness, and you want to bring them to this consciousness, how best can this be passed across? Then you do it that way. Right? So bad leaders are static, they don't think. The only tool they have is an hammer, and therefore they tend to see every problem as a nail. That's what bad leaders do. You call them boss, right? You call them boss, and I've met a few, right? They don't think. They're immature. Their IQ is low, right? Even though they think it's not. All right. So the Godfathers use different leadership styles, as Rasmus went to each of these six gold mines. He saw that they use different leadership styles depending on the situation and the people they were leading, right? They use different styles depending on the situation and the people they were leading. And it was also different kind of games that he was looking at. So they use styles that worked in those specific circumstances, right? They don't please through their methods and philosophy. They don't use their method and philosophy to make people happy, right? They don't do it in a way, as it were, to impress the people they are working with or on. They are not into impressing, they are into expressing, they are into giving them what will work for them, not what they feel like or what they are comfortable with, right? They please through result. Result is a driver. It's all about the result they want to get at the end of the engagement. It's all about the medals they are supposed to win. They would love to win. It's all about the world record they want to break. It's all about making a name, making a mark, in history, in time, right? The results drive the way the styles are being formulated and are being passed across. Is the result, the result, the result, the result, the result, the result. Life as a whole itself is a result. Life is not an accident. Some people think life is an accident. Again, I was chatting in one of my WhatsApp group, and someone was just saying, oh, people that are down, it's because life happened to them. And I asked a simple question. So when life happens to you, are you supposed to go with that happen to you? No, it's not what happened to you, it's the way you respond to it. What happened to you happened to a lot more people than you, and they responded in different ways. Some allowed it to carry them away, some used it as a catalyst, as a tool for their elevation. Question is, which one are you going to follow? Are you going to give the excuse and become a pity party? Or you're going to use the circumstance that has happened to you and use it to climb up, use it as an opportunity, turn your calamity, turn your incident, turn your unfortunate circumstance into an opportunity to grow, right? But that all comes from what you're focused on, right? Whether you focus on settling or you're focusing on getting the right results. Whichever one you choose, that's what you get. If you're working with people under you, is the result. I used to have a farm manager, and every time I want to do something, he always finds why we cannot do it. And I say, hey, you're being problem-minded. It's not that the problems are not there. It's that we want a solution. You tell me there's a problem. I already know that. What I'm looking for is a solution. What you should be doing is thinking about how we can do it, not how we cannot do it. We're here to get a result. We're a commercial firm, meaning we got to make money. We're paying salaries. We have to make money. It's not what can go wrong. It's what can go right. And how do we make that right happen? That's what a business does. Not look for why it cannot be done. It's look for how it can be done. Not lose the mind of the problem, not taking the problems for granted, but creating safeguards to protect you as you go for the prize, as you go for the results, right? So that's important, focusing on the results, right? So leadership is relational because you're relating with people. And that's not that is easy or not easy depending on who you are. For someone like me, it could be a bit of a challenge, but I've worked on myself knowing my limitations. My personality is a goal-oriented personality. It's a result-oriented personality. So it's easy for me to talk about results because that's who I am. Not everybody is like me. Some people are not goal-oriented, result-oriented. And that is not necessarily a negative. It's just who they are, a tendency of their personality. Some people are more conscious not to rock the boat, are more conscious of the people rather than the results. It's a tendency. You have to catch yourself. When you're too much concerned about people, you have to ask yourself, why are we in this business? Is it to make money or to babysit people? If you are too focused on the results and equipment, you have to remember that the people that are working for you are human beings. They have feelings, they have emotions. It's getting the essential balance between the two as you work with people. Because people are different. Have different combinations of things going on in their life, but they're human beings, they're different. And every human being wants to be seen. Every human being wants to be heard. Human being wants to be understood, because all of that means that they are loved. They might act it in different ways, but the bottom line is that everybody wants to be appreciated, to have a sense of worth, a sense of being seen, a sense of being present. And we have to give it to them if we want to win them, right? So leadership is relational. If you're not going to relate with people, you can't be a leader. You can't be a good leader. It's a business of human nature. It's a business of understanding human nature and using it right. That's what leadership is. Understanding human nature and using it right. The same person that will complain about doing a job is the same person that will do without complaint, depending on the way it's been spoken to. With depending on the stake that's been placed on the job that he's been asked to do. Right? And depending on who is saying it. And you find this anywhere and everywhere because human beings are the same. Right? So a leader must understand human nature in order to lead effectively. If you don't understand human nature, you're going to have problem with leading. You have to understand when people are saying what they are not really saying, or people are not saying what they should say. It's understanding human nature and being able to use it to win. Not using it to oppress people, not using it in an abusive way, but using it in a way that brings about a win-win result, right? So God leaders must understand human nature in order to lead effectively. Godfathers have a deep insight into the psychology of people. They have a deep insight into the psychology of people and understand what it takes to maximize their unique potential, right? You need that if you're going to be a leader, to understand the way your people think and be able to use that to help them, right? So almost looking like we're going to finish there. All right. As a coach, you have to understand that what works for one athlete does not necessarily work for another, right? As a coach, you need to understand that because what works for one person does not necessarily work for another. You have to seek to adapt, to that person. That's probably something that's on the average will work for most people. But then if there are people that it's not working for and they're important to you, you have to look for how to address that, right? I'm not sure why my eyes are doing something else. Let me wear my glasses. The coaches, so Stephen Francis, says this. He's one of the gurus, the godfathers, of one of these gold mines. And he says the coaches who are themselves former athletes tend to overgeneralize from their own experience. What did or did not work for them personally has become the only blueprint for success. So you have to be careful with those the coaches that have experience. They've done that thing before. They seem to compare every other person to themselves, right? And like I said, people are different. Those people you are coaching are not like you. So you have to be careful the way you correlate what worked for you to what is expected to work for them. Is your temperament the same? Number one. If your temperament's the same, you might have to tweak some of the things you know about yourself for you to work for that person. For example, the work I used to do in the field involved giving a report to the office. You know, you can imagine someone telling me how easy that is, who is an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. It might be easy for him, it's not easy for me. Right? So I have to understand, the specific of the person I'm dealing with, in terms of their temperament and in terms of any other thing that might be unique to them. Okay, if I don't do that, I won't be able to communicate effectively and get the person to do what I want done in an effective and efficient way. Right? So I'm thinking we should stop here. We're gonna stop here and start from here next week. I'm not at the hour mark, I'm at the 50 minutes mark. I'm not gonna be able to finish everything, so I'm just gonna stop here so we have something to be able to close out for next week. Thanks for coming along today. I hope you got something from our time together. It's pretty much just looking at the Godfathers at the different gold mines, the places where they have high performance in long distance running, playing long tennis, playing golf, and different other places, and trying to look at the people there, the people that run those places, what differentiated them. That's what we've been looking at. What differentiated them in such a way that they got the high performance from those places, and we're seeing what we can replicate about it. And we've seen that one is the fact that it's the hand, not the all, being able to know what to combine in the right mix. And sometimes those things are seemingly opposing to one another. But at the end of the day, they are what we call the yin and the yang, right? And they work together in a way that they support one another, even though the principles look as if they're against one another, right? And then we've been talking then about leadership. We looked at leadership and said leadership is situational. We've said leadership style is not universal. And we've said that great leaders are flexible, pretty much. And so the leadership styles of the Godfathers were different based on the people that they were working with and the sport also they were doing. We've talked about the need for a leader to be relational, understand human nature, and I think that's where and being able to understand what works for each athlete also. That's the last thing we said there. So we're going to stop here for today. We'll continue next week, Sunday.